Red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the UES Thunderbolt as Captain Hansol stared at the emergency message on his screen. His hands gripped the arms of his command chair tightly. The distress call from the Andromeda Coalition played again, showing scenes of destruction that made his stomach turn. "Captain, we're the only human ship within 50 light-years of the Durrani system," Lieutenant Tayri said, her voice steady despite the tension in her shoulders. She stood beside his chair, tablet in hand, showing him the positions of other human vessels. All of them were too far away to help. Hansol nodded slowly. "How many Vex ships are attacking the Durrani?" 23 warships, sir." Young Ho looked up from his tactical station. "They're using their standard attack pattern. The Durrani shields are failing. They'll break through in less than 6 hours." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what 23 Vex warships meant. The Thunderbolt was a powerful ship, but it was just one vessel against an Empire's fleet. "The Durrani are peaceful researchers," Sun Mai said from her communication station. Her fingers moved quickly over her console as she processed more incoming data. "They've never fought a war. They're begging for help. Sir, they're children." She couldn't finish the sentence. Hansol stood up and walked to the front viewport. The Thunderbolt was racing through space at full speed, but they were still an hour away from the Durrani system. Stars streaked past like white lines on a black canvas. "Lieutenant Tayri," he said, turning to face his crew, "what's your advice?" Tayri bit her lip. "Sir, engaging 23 Vex warships would be suicide. We should call for reinforcements and wait." "And how many Durrani will die while we wait?" Hansol asked quietly. The question hung in the air. Chief Engineer J1's voice came over the intercom, breaking the silence. "Captain, I've been studying the Durrani technical data they sent with their distress call. Their shield technology. It's different from anything I've seen before. If you give me 2 hours, I might be able to." "We don't have 2 hours," Hansol cut in. "You have 1 hour. Whatever you can do in that time, do it." "Yes, sir." The excitement in Jai-Wan's voice was clear. He loved impossible challenges. Hansol turned to his tactical officer. "Young Ho, what do we know about Vex battle tactics?" Young Ho pulled up a holographic display showing previous Vex battles. "They're predictable, sir. Their AI combat systems always follow the same patterns. They never expect enemies to act illogically because their computers say it's inefficient." A small smile crossed Hansol's face. "Good thing humans aren't always logical then." He pressed a button on his chair, connecting to engineering. "G1, forget about making everything perfect. I need your craziest ideas right now. What can we do that the Vex would never expect?" Jai-Wan's laugh echoed through the bridge. "Oh, I have some ideas, Captain. The Durrani shields operate on completely different principles than ours. The Vex have never seen anything like them. If we route power from our weapon systems through their shield frequency." He started talking faster, excited by the possibilities. Hansol looked at his crew. Tayri still seemed worried, but her eyes showed determination. Young Ho was already running battle simulations with Jai-Wan's suggestions. Sun Nui monitored the desperate calls for help from the Durrani, her face set with purpose. "Send a message to the Durrani," Hansol ordered. "Tell them help is coming. And send a message to Earth Command. Tell them." He paused, considering his words carefully. "Tell them the UES Thunderbolt is engaging the Vex fleet to protect our Durrani allies. If we fail, let the record show we did not stand by while innocents were slaughtered." The bridge crew straightened in their seats. They all knew the odds. They all knew this might be their last battle. But they also knew they were about to show the galaxy what one human warship could do. "All hands, battle stations," Hansol commanded, his voice firm and clear. "We're about to teach the Vex Empire why you should never underestimate humanity." The Thunderbolt's engines roared as they pushed to maximum speed. In the distance, the first flashes of battle were visible, where Vex warships hammered against failing Durrani shields. They had no idea that their carefully calculated victory was about to be interrupted by the most unpredictable force in the galaxy: human ingenuity. Hansol smiled as G1's first modifications began changing the color of their shield harmonics. The Vex weren't ready for what was coming. Nobody was ever ready for humanity's ability to do the impossible. Supreme Commander Kryvax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance, watching the battle unfold exactly as his AI predicted. "Commander," one of his officers called out, "unknown ship approaching at high speed. Configuration doesn't match any known species in our database." Kryvax walked to the tactical display with his hands clasped behind his back. A single ship, smaller than his own vessels, was racing toward them. "Scan it," he ordered. "Scans show primitive weapon systems by our standards. Their shield technology is—" The officer paused, looking confused. "Sir, their shield readings keep changing. Something's wrong with our sensors." "Nothing is wrong with our sensors," Kryvax said coldly. "They're trying to confuse us. Amusing, but futile. What species is foolish enough to challenge us with a single ship?" The communications officer's voice crackled with surprise. "Sir, they're broadcasting an identification signal. It's a human vessel." The bridge fell silent. The Vex Empire had heard of humans, a young species that had recently joined the galactic community, but they had never fought them before. "One human ship," Kryvax laughed. "Send them a warning. Tell them to leave or be destroyed." Meanwhile, aboard the Thunderbolt, J1 was working frantically in engineering. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he connected Durrani shield technology to their systems. "Captain, you're not going to believe this," he called over the intercom. "The Durrani use emotions to power their shields." "What?" Hansol leaned forward in his chair. "Explain." "Their technology responds to emotional energy. That's why they're losing. They're peaceful researchers, so their defensive systems are weak. But if we channel our emotions through their shield frequency—" J1's voice was excited. "Captain, the angrier we get, the stronger the shields become." Young Ho looked up from his tactical station. "Sir, the Vex are sending us a warning message. They're threatening to destroy us if we don't retreat." "Play it on speakers," Hansol ordered. A cold, mechanical-sounding voice filled the bridge. "Primitive human vessel, you are interfering in Imperial business. Retreat immediately or face annihilation. Our calculations show you have zero chance of survival." Hansol smiled. "Sun Mai, what do you make of their communication style?" Sun Mai analyzed the message quickly. "They're overconfident, sir. Their language suggests they rely completely on computer predictions. They don't expect us to act against our own survival interests." "Good." Hansol stood up. "Send them this reply. Vex Command, this is Captain Hansol of the UES Thunderbolt. We will not stand by while you murder innocent civilians. Withdraw your forces immediately." Tae-Ri moved closer to his chair. "Sir, perhaps we should try to negotiate." "No time." Hansol cut her off. "J1, are those shield modifications ready?" "Ready enough, Captain. I've linked our weapon systems through the Durrani emotional amplifiers. The crew's determination is already making them twice as strong as normal." Young Ho's console lit up with warnings. "Sir, 5 Vex ships are breaking formation to intercept us. Their weapons are charging." "Perfect." Hansol sat back in his chair. "They're doing exactly what we want, splitting their forces. Young Ho, target the lead ship with our modified weapons. G1, channel everything we've got into that first shot. Let's show them what human emotions can do." The Thunderbolt's weapons hummed with power. The hybrid system glowed with a strange blue light as it fed off the crew's determination and anger at the Vex's cruelty. "Sir," Sun Mai called out, "I'm picking up confusion in their communications. They're detecting energy readings that don't match any known weapons." "Vex ships in firing range in 30 seconds, Young Ho reported. Hansol looked at his crew, seeing the determination in their eyes. "Send one last message to the Vex. Tell them, you should have checked your database more carefully. Humans don't follow predictable patterns. The Vex ships opened fire, their energy weapons streaking through space toward the Thunderbolt. But instead of taking evasive action, as their combat AI predicted, the human ship accelerated straight toward them. Now, Young-ho, Han Sol ordered, show them why you never underestimate human creativity. The Thunderbolt's first shot, powered by human emotion and Durrani technology, blazed across space like a miniature sun. The Vex ship's sensors couldn't even categorize what they were seeing. On his flagship, Supreme Commander Kryvax watched in disbelief as the impossible happened. His perfect formations and calculated strategies were about to meet something his computers could never predict: the chaotic, determined, innovative spirit of humanity. The first shot from the Thunderbolt hit the lead Vex ship like a hammer striking glass. The emotional-powered beam cut through its shields as if they weren't there. The massive warship split in half, its crew never having a chance to understand what hit them. Direct hit, Young-ho shouted, his hands flying over his tactical console. Their shields had no defense against our hybrid weapons. Han Sol gripped his chair as the Thunderbolt dove between the remaining Vex ships. J1. Status on our modified shields. Better than I hoped, Captain. Jaiwan's voice was filled with excitement. The crew's anger at their attack on the Durrani is making our shields twice as strong. The Vex weapons can barely touch us. On the Eternal Dominance, Supreme Commander Kryvax watched in shock as one of his best ships broke apart. Impossible. Our calculations showed their weapons were primitive. Sir, his tactical officer reported, voice shaking, the human ship is using some kind of hybrid technology. They've combined their systems with Durrani tech. Our computers can't predict what they'll do next. Kryvax slammed his fist on his command console. Launch all fighters. Surround that ship. They cannot survive against superior numbers. The space around the Thunderbolt filled with Vex fighter craft. Hundreds of small deadly ships moved in precise formations, their AI systems working together perfectly. Fighter squadrons approaching from all directions, Tae-ri reported calmly. They're trying to box us in. Han Sol smiled. Perfect. Young-ho, remember those old Earth videos I showed you? The ones about space combat? Young-ho grinned. Yes, sir. The ones the tactical AI said were illogical and inefficient. Show me what you learned from them. Young-ho's fingers danced across his console. The Thunderbolt spun on its axis, firing its main engines in short, powerful bursts. The ship moved in ways the Vex computers said were impossible, ways that should have torn the ship apart. Sir, Sunmai called out. The Durrani are sending us visual data of the battle. Their scientists are amazed. They say our ship is dancing. Through the bridge windows, Vex fighters exploded like fireworks as they tried to follow the Thunderbolt's wild maneuvers. Their precise formations fell apart as the human ship moved in ways their combat computers couldn't predict. Captain, Jai-1 called from engineering. I've made another discovery. The Durrani shields don't just respond to anger. They get stronger with any strong emotion. The excitement our crew feels in battle, the joy of saving lives, even our fear, it's all making us stronger. Han Sol nodded. Send that data to the Durrani. Show them how to use their own technology better. Let them see that peace doesn't mean weakness. It means having something worth fighting for. The Thunderbolt continued its impossible dance through space, each movement leaving destroyed Vex fighters in its wake. Young-ho had studied old human movies, video games, and combat footage that the tactical computers dismissed as unrealistic. Now he used every wild idea, every impossible maneuver. Sir, Tae-ri reported, 3 more Vex warships are moving to support their fighters. They're trying to predict our pattern. Good luck with that, Han Sol said. Young-ho, show them some more of those illogical human tactics. The Thunderbolt suddenly cut its engines, spinning in place as its momentum carried it backward through space. The hybrid weapons fired in all directions, powered by the crew's determination. Vex fighters exploded by the dozens, their AI unable to cope with a ship that ignored the basic rules of space combat. On the Durrani homeworld, crowds gathered around view screens, watching in amazement. They had never seen anyone fight like this. Their own shield technology, which they had only ever used for defense, was being turned into something incredible by human creativity. Ambassador Luminar, the Durrani leader, sent a message to the Thunderbolt. We see now what we never understood about our own technology. You fight not with hatred, but with passion, with purpose. You show us that emotions are not weakness, they are strength. Hansol read the message and turned to his crew. Keep it up. Show the galaxy why humanity never backs down from a fight. Jai-1, give me everything you can from those hybrid systems. Young-ho, pick your next target. Sun-mai, make sure every ship in the sector sees what happens when you threaten innocent lives. The Thunderbolt blazed through space like a comet, its human crew proving that sometimes the best weapon isn't the biggest ship or the most advanced AI. It's the unpredictable, unstoppable spirit of humanity. Their fleet is splitting up, Young-ho announced, pointing to the tactical display. Hansol watched the massive Vex warships move into position. Each one was 3 times the size of the Thunderbolt, their dark hulls blocking out the stars behind them. Sun-mai, what are you getting from their communications? They're confused, sir. Sun-mai listened carefully to the Vex transmissions. Their combat computers keep giving them different predictions. None of their usual tactics are working. The bridge rocked as a Vex energy beam glanced off their hybrid shields. Jai-1's voice came over the intercom. Captain, shields are holding at 80%. The crew's excitement is actually making them stronger than when we started. Hansol stood up from his chair and walked to the tactical display. Young-ho, remember what you said about their predictable patterns. Show me their blind spots. Young-ho's fingers moved quickly over his console, highlighting areas in the Vex formation. Here, sir. Their ships always maintain the same distance from each other. They never expect anyone to fly between their formation because their computers say it's too dangerous. Perfect. Hansol smiled. Tyree, take us right through the middle of their fleet. J1. Divert all power to engines and forward shields. Tyree's eyes widened. Sir, that's crazy. We'll be surrounded. Exactly. Hansol returned to his chair. And what did we learn about Vex ships? They're slow to turn. Once we're inside their formation, they won't be able to fire without hitting each other. The Thunderbolt's engines roared to life. The human ship shot forward like an arrow, heading straight for the gap between 2 massive Vex warships. On the enemy bridges, alarms blared as their computers tried to make sense of this suicidal move. Incoming fire from all directions, Young-ho called out. The space around them lit up with enemy weapons. Evasive maneuvers, Hansol ordered calmly. But maintain our course. The Thunderbolt rolled and weaved, dodging most of the Vex fire. What hits they took were absorbed by their emotion-powered shields. As they got closer to the Vex ships, the enemy fire began to slack off. They're stopping their attack, Sun-mai reported. Their commanders are arguing. Some want to keep firing, but others are afraid they'll hit their own ships. Now, Young-ho, Hansol commanded. Show them why you're the best tactical officer in the fleet. Young-ho had been waiting for this moment. The Thunderbolt spun on its axis, weapons firing in all directions. At point-blank range, the hybrid weapons tore through Vex shields like they weren't there. 2 enemy ships suffered heavy damage before they could even react. Keep moving, Hansol ordered. Don't give them time to think. The Thunderbolt danced between the huge Vex ships like a bird flying through trees. Every time the enemy tried to target them, the human ship was already somewhere else. Their formation, once perfect, fell into chaos. On the Eternal Dominance, Supreme Commander Kryvax watched in growing anger as his fleet fell apart. Order all ships to fire. I don't care if they hit each other. Sir, his tactical officer protested. The damage to our own fleet would be. Do it, Kryvax shouted. No single ship makes a fool of the Vex Empire. The order went out, and the Vex ships opened fire. But the Thunderbolt was ready. As enemy beams crisscrossed space, many found targets, other Vex ships. In their desperation to hit the nimble human vessel, they did more damage to themselves than their target. Sir, Sun Mai said excitedly, the Durrani are sending us data. They've analyzed the Vex energy signatures. There's a pattern to their weapon frequencies. Jaiwan's voice jumped in. Captain, if you give me 2 minutes, I can tune our shields to exactly counter their weapons. The Durrani scientists are helping me understand their technology better. Hansol nodded. Young Ho, keep us moving for 2 more minutes. Tay-Ray, status of the Durrani civilian ships. Almost all evacuated from the combat zone, sir, Tay-Ray reported. The Durrani are amazed. They say we've given them more than protection. We've given them hope. The Thunderbolt continued its deadly dance, showing the galaxy that sometimes the strongest weapon isn't size or numbers, but the ability to think differently. Every move they made broke another rule of space combat. Every success proved that human unpredictability could overcome any technological advantage. Sir, Sun Mai called out, trying to hide a smile. You should hear what they're calling us on the Durrani news broadcasts. They're saying we're the ghost ship because we move in ways their sensors say are impossible. Han Sol laughed. Well, let's give them a show they'll never forget. Young Ho, plot us a course through their flagship's defense screen. It's time to say hello to Supreme Commander Kryvax personally. Ji-Won's voice rang through the bridge with excitement. Captain, the shield modifications are ready. The Durrani scientists are amazing. They helped me understand their technology in ways I never thought possible. The Thunderbolt shook as another Vex blast hit them. But this time, something was different. The shields didn't just absorb the hit. They seemed to glow brighter. Sir, Jai-One continued, we can now absorb their weapon energy and send it back at them. The Durrani emotional amplifiers are turning their own attacks into power for us. Hansol smiled. You hear that, everyone. The harder they hit us, the stronger we get. Young Ho, target their flagship. Let's show them what their own energy feels like. The Thunderbolt turned sharply, diving straight toward the Eternal Dominance. Vex ships fired desperately, but each shot only made the human ship's shields shine brighter. On his flagship, Supreme Commander Kryvax watched in horror as the impossible ship approached. All ships concentrate fire. They cannot absorb everything. Sir, his tactical officer warned, our ships are still hitting each other. We've already lost 3 vessels to friendly fire. The Thunderbolt reached the center of the Vex formation. Its weapons, now supercharged with absorbed energy, fired a blinding beam at the Eternal Dominance. The blast cut through the flagship's shields like they weren't there. Direct hit, Young Ho shouted. Their main power system is damaged. Sun Ma's hands flew over her console. Sir, I'm picking up panic in their communications. The Vex crews, they're afraid. Their command structure is breaking down. Hansol stood up and walked to the front of the bridge. Through the viewport, he could see Vex ships moving erratically, their perfect formation completely shattered. Tay-Ray, he called. Status of the Durrani evacuation. Last civilian ships are clearing the combat zone now, sir, she reported. The Durrani are doing more than running. They're fighting back. Their research ships are using their shields to protect the evacuees. The bridge crew watched as small Durrani vessels darted between the massive Vex ships. The peaceful researchers had found their courage, inspired by the Thunderbolt's example. Captain, Ji-Won's excited voice came over the comm again. The Durrani just shared something incredible. Their emotional technology, it can link to other ships. If we broadcast the right frequency, we can share our shield strength with their vessels. Hansol turned to his communications officer. Sun Mai, send that frequency to every Durrani ship. Show them they're not alone anymore. The effect was immediate and stunning. as the Thunderbolt's crew's determination and courage flowed through the emotional amplifiers. Durrani shields began to glow with the same bright energy. Their small ships, once helpless against the Vex, now moved with new confidence. "Sir," Yum-Ho reported with awe, "the Durrani ships, they're copying our maneuvers. They're using our tactics." Through the viewport, they could see Durrani research vessels performing the same unpredictable moves as the Thunderbolt. Their natural curiosity and intelligence, combined with human battle tactics, made them quick learners. On the damaged Eternal Dominance, Kryvax watched his perfect victory turn into a nightmare. "How?" he demanded. "How can one human ship change everything?" The answer came in another blast from the Thunderbolt, this one hitting his engine systems. The mighty flagship began to drift, its power failing. "Sir," Sun Mai called out, "message from the Durrani fleet. They say we've taught them that being peaceful doesn't mean being helpless. They're calling for all their ships in nearby systems to join the fight." Hansol nodded. "Send them our thanks. And send a message to Supreme Commander Kryvax. Tell him he has one chance to withdraw his forces before the rest of the Durrani arrive." The bridge crew held their breath as they waited for a response. The Vex fleet, once so mighty and organized, now floated in disarray. 5 of their ships were completely destroyed, 3 more crippled by friendly fire, and their flagship was badly damaged. "Sir," Sun Mai reported, response from Commander Kryvax. "This is not over, humans. You have no idea what you've started." "Oh, we know exactly what we've started," Hansol said quietly. "We've shown the galaxy that bullies can't win when good people stand together. And we've taught the Durrani something their emotions always knew, but their minds had forgotten. Sometimes you have to fight for peace." The remaining Vex ships began to retreat, their formation ragged and broken. As they fled, the Durrani ships raised their shields in salute to the Thunderbolt, the emotional energy making them glow like stars. Supreme Commander Kryvax stood in the damaged bridge of the Eternal Dominance, his fists clenched in rage. Around him, repair crews worked to fix the ship's systems, while medical teams helped injured crew members. "Get me a direct line to the Imperial fleet," he shouted. "I want every available ship in this sector. Now." His communications officer worked quickly, hands shaking. "Sir," Imperial Command responds. "They're sending 15 more warships. Arrival time: 1 hour." Kryvax smiled coldly. "Good. This time, we'll crush that human ship with pure numbers. No clever tactics can save them from 30 warships." Meanwhile, aboard the Thunderbolt, the crew was using the brief pause in battle to make repairs and check their systems. "Captain," Jai-1 reported from engineering, "the hybrid shields are holding steady. The Durrani scientists sent us more data about their emotional technology. You won't believe what else it can do." Before he could continue, Sun Mai cut in urgently. "Sir, I'm picking up multiple hyperspace signatures, big ones. The Vex are calling in reinforcements." Hansol walked to the tactical display where Young-Ho was already analyzing the new threats. "How many?" 15 more warships, Young-Ho said quietly. "All capital class, like the Eternal Dominance. They're bigger than anything we've faced so far." Tae-Ri looked worried. "Sir, maybe we should call for human reinforcements too. Surely Earth Command would send help now that we've proven the threat." Hansol shook his head. "No time. Those ships will be here in an hour. Even our fastest reinforcements would take 6 hours to arrive." He turned to his communications officer. "Sun Mai, what are you picking up from the Vex channels?" Sun Mai listened carefully to the intercepted messages. "Sir, something's different. Their communication pattern has changed. They're not using their AI protocols anymore. Commander Kryvax is giving direct orders, ignoring the combat computers." "He's angry," Hansol said with a slight smile. "Good. Anger makes people careless." Jai-1's voice came back over the intercom. "Captain, remember how I said the Durrani had shared more data? Their emotional technology doesn't just work on shields. We can use it to detect emotional states, like a giant mood ring for enemy ships. Han Sol's eyes lit up. Sun Mei, can you use that to analyze the Vex communications more deeply? Already on it, sir. Her fingers flew over her console. The Vex crews are scared. They've never lost a battle before. But Kryvax, his emotional signature is off the charts with rage. He's broadcasting orders that directly contradict their standard battle doctrine. And how do their eyes handle contradictory orders? Han Sol asked. Yum-Ho grinned. They don't, sir. The computers are programmed to follow specific patterns. If they receive orders that don't match their programming, they start to malfunction. Tae-Ri finished, understanding dawning on her face. Sir, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Han Sol sat in his command chair. If we can't beat 30 warships with strength, we'll beat them with psychology. Sun Mai, send a message to the Durrani. Tell them we need their best scientists. We're going to turn their emotional detection technology into a weapon. The next hour was a blur of activity. G1 worked with Durrani scientists to modify their systems, while Yum-Ho and Tae-Ri planned defensive strategies. Sun Mai studied the Vex communication patterns, looking for weaknesses they could exploit. When the 15 new Vex warships arrived, they found the Thunderbolt waiting calmly in space. The human ship looked tiny compared to the massive fleet assembling against it. On the Eternal Dominance, Kryvax felt victory within his grasp. All ships form attack pattern Delta. Surround them. No escape this time. But as his fleet moved into position, something strange happened. The Thunderbolt began broadcasting on all frequencies, not weapons fire or shield energy, but pure emotional content. The combined feelings of the human crew, their determination, their courage, their absolute refusal to back down, flooded the Vex ship's sensors. Sir, Kryvax's science officer shouted in alarm. The enemy ship is broadcasting some kind of emotional energy. Our AI systems can't process it. They're trying to. The officer never finished his sentence. Across the Vex fleet, combat computers began to fail as they tried to process something they were never designed to handle: raw human emotion and willpower. Han Sol watched the massive fleet's formation start to waver. Now we'll see if machines can handle something they were never programmed for: the human spirit. The real battle was about to begin. And this time, it wouldn't be fought with just weapons and shields. It would be fought with something the Vex Empire had never considered a weapon: the unstoppable power of human determination. The Thunderbolt shook violently as enemy fire poured in from all directions. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as systems struggled under the assault. Hull breach on Deck 3. Tae-Ri reported, her voice steady despite the chaos. Emergency force fields are holding. Jai-1's voice crackled over the intercom. Captain, our hybrid shields are at 40%. We can't take much more of this. Han Sol gripped his chair as another blast rocked the ship. Hold position. Sun Mei, status of the emotional broadcast. It's working, sir. Sun Mei's eyes were glued to her readings. The Vex combat computers are trying to process our emotional output. They can't handle it. Look. On the main screen, they could see Vex ships beginning to move erratically. Their perfect formation was breaking apart as their AI systems struggled with something they were never programmed to understand: pure human emotion. Sir, Yum-Ho called out excitedly. 3 Vex ships just fired on each other. Their targeting systems are malfunctioning. In the Eternal Dominance, Kryvax watched in horror as his fleet fell into chaos. What's happening? Why aren't the combat computers responding? Sir, his science officer reported, panic in his voice, the human ship. They've weaponized emotions. Our eyes are detecting feelings they can't categorize: determination, courage, rage, hope. The systems are overloading trying to analyze them. Shut off the combat computers, Kryvax ordered. Switch to manual control. But it was too late. Years of relying on AI had left the Vex crews unprepared for manual combat. As their computers failed, many ships simply drifted in space, their crews unable to operate the complex weapon systems without computer assistance. Back on the Thunderbolt, Jadwan had more news. "Captain, the Durrani just sent us new data. We can increase the emotional broadcast power, but..." He hesitated. It would mean diverting power from weapons and shields. Hansol didn't hesitate. "Do it. Our weapons aren't winning this fight. Our humanity is." The Thunderbolt's hybrid shield's Dimbus power was redirected. The emotional broadcast grew stronger, flooding Vex sensors with the combined feelings of the human crew. Their determination to protect the innocent, their refusal to surrender, their unshakable belief that they could win against impossible odds. "Sir," Sun Mai reported, "I'm picking up something strange in the Vex communications. The crews, they're starting to feel our emotions. The broadcast isn't just affecting their computers anymore." Young Ho's tactical display showed more Vex ships firing on their own allies, their crews no longer trusting their AI systems. 5 more ships have dropped out of formation. They're retreating. Tae-Ri looked up from her station. "Captain, the Durrani are reporting the same thing from their sensors. The Vex crews are experiencing emotions they've been trained to suppress. They're beginning to question their orders." Hansol stood up, walking to the front viewport. "Send a message to all Vex ships. Tell them, this is what humanity brings to the galaxy. Not just technology, not just weapons, but the courage to feel, to care, to fight for what's right. You can retreat now, or you can learn this lesson the hard way." On the Eternal Dominance, Kryvax watched his mighty fleet crumble. Ship after ship went dark as their computers failed completely. Crews were refusing orders, overwhelmed by emotions they had never been allowed to express. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving reports of mutinies on 7 ships. The crews, they're saying they won't fight anymore. They're saying the humans are right." Kryvax stared at the single human warship that had destroyed everything he believed in. His perfect fleet, his advanced technology, his emotionless efficiency, all broken by something his empire had dismissed as weakness: human feelings. The Thunderbolt hung in space, battle-scarred but undefeated. Its weapons were weak, its shields were failing, but it radiated something more powerful than any technology: the indomitable spirit of humanity. "Sir," Sun Mai said softly, "message from the Durrani. They say we've done more than save them. We've shown the galaxy that the strongest power isn't in weapons or computers, it's in the heart." Hansol looked at his brave crew, each of them exhausted but proud. "Send one last message to Commander Kryvax," he ordered. "Tell him, this is what happens when you threaten innocent lives. This is what happens when you face human determination. And this is just the beginning." News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Every species with a communication system watched as a single human warship stood against an empire. The Thunderbolt's emotional broadcast had reached far beyond the battlefield, touching minds and hearts across dozens of star systems. "Captain," Sun Mai called out, her voice filled with wonder, "you need to see this. We're getting messages from everywhere. The Centauri Alliance, the Rigel Confederation, even the Neural Collective. They're all watching." Hansol stood at his command station, watching the massive Vex fleet continue to break apart. More ships were going dark as their crews rejected their emotionless training and embraced what the humans had shown them. "Sir," Young Ho reported from Tactical, "the Vex ships, they're not just retreating anymore. Some of them are actively protecting us. 3 of their destroyers just moved to block the Eternal Dominance's line of fire." On the Vex flagship, Supreme Commander Kryvax faced open rebellion. His bridge crews stood against him, their faces showing emotions that had been suppressed for generations. "You can't fight your own feelings anymore," his first officer said, standing tall. "The humans didn't defeat us with weapons. They freed us with truth. We're not machines. We never were." Kryvax drew his weapon, but found himself surrounded by his own crew. The emotional broadcast had awakened something in them that could never be buried again: their humanity. Back on the Thunderbolt, Jaiwan's excited voice came over the intercom. "Captain, the Durrani just made another breakthrough. They'd found a way to make the emotional broadcast even stronger. We can share it with every ship in the sector." "Do it," Hansol ordered. He turned to his crew. "Let's show the galaxy what humanity really stands for." The Thunderbolt's broadcast grew stronger. The combined emotions of its crew, their courage, their compassion, their unwavering determination to protect the innocent, reached every corner of the battlefield. The effect was immediate and stunning. Across the Vex fleet, ships began powering down their weapons. Crews that had been trained from birth to suppress all feeling were experiencing emotions for the first time. Many wept openly. Others laughed. All of them felt truly alive for the first time. "Sir," Tayri reported, checking her readings carefully, 25 Vex ships have now stood down completely. Their crews are. They're celebrating." Sun Mi's hands flew over her console as more messages poured in. "Captain, the Neural Collective is saying this proves their theories about emotion being the most powerful force in the universe. The Centauri are calling it a revolution in warfare. The Rigel Confederation wants to establish diplomatic relations immediately." Hansol smiled as he watched the mighty Vex fleet transform. Ships that had arrived as enemies were now reaching out in friendship. Crews that had been bound by rigid discipline were now free to feel, to think, to choose. "Message from the Eternal Dominance," Sun Mi announced. "The crew has taken control. Supreme Commander Kryvax is under arrest. They're asking for our help in reforming the Vex Empire." Young Ho looked up from his tactical display, his eyes wide. "Sir, do you realize what this means? We didn't just win a battle. We changed an entire civilization." "No," Hansol said quietly. "We reminded them of something they had forgotten. That no matter what species you are, no matter what you've been taught, feelings aren't weakness. They're strength. They're what make us alive." The Thunderbolt hung in space, its hull scarred from battle but its spirit unbroken. Around it, Vex ships began forming a new formation, not for battle, but in salute. Their crews, finally free to feel, wanted to show respect to the ship that had liberated them. "Sir," Sun Mi said, her voice filled with emotion. "Final message coming in from the Durrani. They say we've given the galaxy 2 gifts today. We showed them that being peaceful doesn't mean being helpless, and we proved that the strongest weapon in the universe isn't a gun or a ship or a computer." "What is it?" Tayri asked. Sun Mi smiled. "The heart. They say we proved that the heart, filled with courage and compassion, can change the universe." Hansol looked at his brave crew, then at the transformed fleet around them. One ship, one crew, one moment of courage had changed everything. The galaxy would never forget the day a human warship entered the battlefield, not because of the weapons it carried, but because of the spirit it unleashed. 1 year after the Battle of Durrani Space, Captain Hansol stood at the main viewport of the repaired and upgraded UES Thunderbolt. The ship had become famous across the galaxy, but more importantly, it had become a symbol of hope. "Sir," Sun Mi called from her station, "the Vex diplomatic fleet has arrived for the ceremony." Through the viewport, Hansol watched as 5 Vex ships appeared. They were different now. Their once dark hulls painted with bright colors, their crews free to express themselves. The former Supreme Commander's flagship, now renamed Spirit of Change, led the formation. "They're not the only ones," Tayri added. "Ships from 20 different species are gathering. The Durrani say this is the largest peaceful gathering in galactic history." Young Ho smiled at his tactical display. "Hard to believe that a year ago, we were fighting for our lives right here. Now look at it. A celebration of peace." The space around them, filled with ships of all sizes and designs. The Durrani had built a massive space station at the battle site, dedicated to studying the power of emotional energy and promoting understanding between species. "Message from the Durrani Science Academy," Sun Mi announced. They say the hybrid technology we created together has spread across the galaxy. 50 species now use emotional amplifiers in their ships, not for weapons, but for cooperation and communication. Jaiwan's voice came over the intercom, still full of excitement after all this time. Captain, you won't believe what the Vex engineers just shared with me. They've completely redesigned their ship's computer systems. Instead of suppressing emotions, they now use them to make their AIs more understanding and adaptive. They say it's all thanks to us. Hansol nodded, remembering the battle that had changed everything. How many ships are here for the ceremony? Over 300, Tadri reported, including 15 human vessels. Earth Command finally admitted we did the right thing. The crew laughed at that. Their actions had been called reckless at first, but no one could argue with the results. The galaxy had transformed in just 1 year. Sir, Sun Mai said softly, personal message from the new Vex Council. They want you to know that schools across their empire now teach about the Battle of Durrani space, but they don't focus on the fighting. They teach about the moment their people learn to feel again. Through the viewport, Hansol could see shuttles moving between the gathered ships. Species that had once avoided each other were now meeting freely, sharing ideas and emotions without fear. The Durrani station's emotional amplifiers helped them all understand each other better. Captain, Yum-Ho called out, the Centauri ships are taking position. They're ready to start the Unity formation. Hansol straightened his uniform. Take us in, Tairi. Let's join the formation. The Thunderbolt moved gracefully into position. Ships from across the galaxy formed a massive circle, with the Durrani station at its center. At precisely the right moment, they all activated their emotional amplifiers together. The combined feelings of thousands of beings from dozens of species filled space. Joy, hope, friendship, and determination mixed together in a display more beautiful than any weapon's fire. The Thunderbolt's crew felt every emotion, shared in the dreams of countless different beings. Message from Earth Command, Sun Mai said, wiping tears from her eyes. They're announcing the creation of the Thunderbolt Initiative. Every human ship will now carry Durrani emotional amplifiers, not for battle, but for understanding. Hansol looked at his crew, the brave people who had faced an empire and changed the galaxy. Send a response to Earth Command. Tell them the Thunderbolt stands ready to continue its mission. Not as a warship anymore, but as a bridge between species. Sir, Tairi said, the Durrani are asking if you'd say a few words to the gathered ships. Hansol nodded and stepped forward. This is Captain Hansol of the UES Thunderbolt. 1 year ago, we came here to fight for what was right. We won that battle not through superior weapons or tactics, but through the strength of human spirit. Today, we gather not to remember the combat, but to celebrate what followed. The day the galaxy learned that emotions are not weakness, but the greatest strength we possess. Let this gathering be a reminder that the most powerful force in the universe is not hatred or fear, but the courage to feel, to care, and to stand together. As his words reached every ship, the emotional amplifiers glowed brighter. The galaxy had changed forever, and it all started with one human warship that dared to fight with its heart, as well as its weapons.